The Illinois legislature coming back into session slowly, but they've got a budget they've got to tackle, and the prospect of the Trump administration freezing federal funds could mean that legislators are going to look again at some tax increases after we've had consecutive different fee and tax increases on a variety of things all throughout the last 7 years of the Pritzker administration. This is Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and wake up with us here with Illinois in Focus Daily, only with the Center Square, and get the headlines in your inbox at thecentersquare.com. So the Pritzker administration, obviously they're running for a third term, and the governor, he's signing legislation. On Friday, he signed the Clean Slate Act, a piece of criminal justice legislation, and he also took questions from members of the media on that issue, and also some off-topic questions. But on the issue of the Clean Slate law that he signed, he says that it's important to give people a second chance.
We've seen in the 12 states where Clean Slate has passed, and we know from personal experience that giving people this chance, the chance to be able to get the housing that they need, the education that they need, the job that they're looking for, taking away barriers makes our communities safer.
So the Clean Slate Act, you can read about that at thecentersquare.com. Pritzker talking more about criminal justice reform.
Let's make our communities safer. Let's get people jobs. Let's give people an opportunity to get an education because they've served time already. They've already paid the price for whatever it is that they may have done when they were younger. It's time to give them a second chance.
But a lot of criticism of that law during fall veto session when this was passed, saying that it's too loose and can possibly lead to people not really being reformed, getting these types of privileges of sorts that the Clean Slate Act lays out. So the governor, obviously holding that news conference, a lot of discussion. He signs the bill and holds it up, and there's, the cameras taking all the pictures. But he was asked several off-topic questions, and one thing that the state legislature is expected to talk about is another constitutional amendment to change the state's flat income tax to allow for a surcharge on millionaires. And what exactly that surcharge will look like is another question. And Pritzker says that when the legislature convenes, they could talk about this, but it's really out of his hands because when a constitutional amendment is proposed by the Illinois legislature, it has to pass both chambers with supermajorities, but the governor doesn't sign it. It then goes to the state board of elections, and they verify it and they put it on the ballot. And then you, the voter, get to choose whether or not to change the state constitution. Again, the governor doesn't sign anything. It's the legislature that acts, asking the voters to make that decision. Now, this happened back in 2020, but the progressive income tax amendment failed. Voters rejected it. And we got now, 4 years later, a different effort underway for a millionaires surcharge. What will that be used for? Not sure. Former Governor Pat Quinn has been advocating to have a property tax relief fund use that 3% surcharge from millionaires to then give property tax rebates across the state. Not sure how that actually lowers property taxes in the state of Illinois, which has the highest property taxes in the nation, but still something very much that could be on the table. But the legislature is going to meet. Pritzker says that he's advocated for taxing wealthier people more, and he says that that's something the legislature is going to discuss.
I have said many times publicly, I think you all know, that I believe that we need to have a graduated income tax system. A millionaire's tax would be something like that. And I think that to pay the bills of the state of Illinois, it's fairer if the wealthiest people in the state and the wealthiest corporations in the state pay more than average folks, working folks, and the most vulnerable.
And he says that they can afford it. Millionaires will be able to afford a tax increase.
I know there'll be more discussions and probably some committee hearings about it, and we'll all have to follow along. and see what happens. But my priority is certainly to balance the budget of the state of Illinois in these very, very challenging times with Donald Trump as president of the United States, when they've taken away so many supports for, frankly, for the most vulnerable people in our society. So we're going to have to make sure we balance the budget.
What that balancing the budget looks like, not too sure at this point. You've got another, 6 months before the budget actually is set to start, so we're midway through. But the legislature is going to be meeting, convening, and discussing these issues, and a whole host of other things as well. Who knows what else they're going to bring up during the spring session, which is starting. Last week, the Illinois Senate came in for only 2 days. They canceled the third day. The Illinois House comes in this week for 3 scheduled days. Today, Tuesday, they'll be in this afternoon. Wednesday, I imagine they'd gavel in and maybe some points of personal privilege and maybe some recognitions on the House floor. And then they'll, adjourn, and maybe some committees will happen. Who knows if they actually are in Thursday when they're scheduled, or if they're going to cancel Thursday. Clearly, we'll be watching all of that at thecentersquare.com. But the governor, talking about other things as well during Friday's news conference, he was asked about the Bears. And, of course, this is before the Bears lost to the Rams. They did lose to the Rams, right? You have to forgive me. I do not watch sports, so I don't know. I don't really look at sports headlines at all. So maybe somebody in the chat room can correct me. The Bears lost to the LA Rams, right? So the big question, though, is, are the Chicago Bears going to stay in Chicago? Are the Chicago Bears going to stay in Illinois? It's a big looming question, and what that means for Illinois legislators when they return. Governor J.B. Pritzker says that there's been a lot of headlines written about the Bears, but things are in flux. They're very fluid at the moment.
The Bears, of course, as a result of them playing at Soldier Field and paying rent essentially at Soldier Field, are helping to pay the bills on that. But I just want to be clear that the actual fiscal responsibility, the financial responsibility for that debt does not fall on the Bears. Having said that, we do not want to leave the city of Chicago or the state of Illinois with enormous debt that goes unpaid. And so we have to figure out how that happens.
And he's talking about the loan that is for Soldier Field that was had back in the early 2000s. And I mean, it was like a $600 million loan. And obviously, I mean, they're still paying on it. And what happens if the Bears move? What happens to the millions of dollars that's owed there? Is that going to be on the backs of Chicago and Illinois taxpayers? Is that part of the negotiations the Bears are having with the legislature? And, are we going to have some hearings in the public so the public can know what's going on here? But the Bears have looked at Arlington Heights. They've actually purchased land there. And then there's the question about property taxes in Arlington Heights. And can they get some special carve-outs? And then can they have the infrastructure that's needed? $1 billion to build this major entertainment complex in Arlington Heights, Illinois. But then we recently also saw that Indiana is looking to court the Chicago Bears out of Chicago to move to Indiana. So they wouldn't be from the land of Lincoln. They would be from the Hoosier states, and what that's going to look like. But Pritzker says, again, things are continuing to be discussed.
I believe it's best for the Bears to stay in the state of Illinois. I've always said that. I do not think the fans, want the Chicago Bears to be based anywhere else except in the state of Illinois.
All right, so we'll obviously make that something that's going to be talked about at the State House. But clearly, it's not just all the financial issues. It's all of the regulatory issues. You've got businesses that have moved out of Chicago because of taxes. Property taxes are the highest in the country. You had Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson looking to get a head tax in place. So clearly, this is a debate that's not going to go anywhere. And as we get ready for the budget season for the state of Illinois to really kick into full gear, Governor Pritzker giving his budget speech next month, we'll be talking about it right here with Illinois in Focus Daily and the Center Square.